Not that you were ever 0-3 with the Patriots. I can't imagine the Patriots have ever been 0-3 in my own recollection, although at some point they definitely were pre-Brady. But Chris Sims has talked in the past about how the urgency arrives and how the tension builds almost exponentially as you get deeper and deeper into your schedule without a win. And that's kind of where the Bengals are now. The good news is they've got the Panthers this weekend. The bad news is they better get their act together because the Panthers are loose. The Panthers look good. Probably the best thing for the Bengals that happened was that the Panthers beat the Raiders on Sunday because now the Bengals will be fully aware and alert for the Andy Dalton reunion game because obviously Dalton got started with the Bengals as a draft pick in 2011, took the team to the playoffs 5 straight years before he started moving around from place to place. So he'll have a little extra something for Cincinnati, but they better have a little extra something going because they lose to the Panthers and fall to 0-4. They got a major problem. They go to Baltimore after that on a short week for a third. Wait, I had that one wrong. They go to Baltimore. They have Baltimore come to them week 5. I was too far down in the schedule. And then they've got a trip to the Giants on Sunday Night Football week 6. So they better get it right now because you get to 0-4. I mean, we have seen it like once or twice. The Chargers were the first team back in 1992 under Bobby Ross to start 0-4 and turn around and get to the playoffs. And I feel like a team has done it since then, but I can't remember who. 0-4, even with 17 games, 0-4, that's a lot to expect. 0-3, even 0-3, it's going to be hard. I don't have the stats in front of me. I don't care about the stats. The bottom line is most of the time you're 0-3 because you stink. It's up to the Bengals to prove they don't stink starting on Sunday.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because I remember even the seasons where we didn't start the way we necessarily wanted to start, call it's week 4, week 5, Bill would always tell us 5 wins isn't going to get anybody anywhere at the end of the season. So for Cincinnati, like that has to be how you view things. Like, yes, we could be 3-0, and that would give us a great feeling. We would feel good about ourselves. But at the end of the day, 3 wins is not going to guarantee you anything. You still have to continue to play well and win. So they have a long runway to get that going. The problem is when you don't have anything going for yourselves, and it's that sense of urgency, but also it's not full panic, but it's, all right, well, what if it just doesn't happen? You start to think about those things. And I think when you look at this team, they has so many other things going on all off season that now it felt like right before the season, everything was coming together. Jamar Chase was back in the building. T. Higgins got hurt, but it was like, oh, we finally got this group we want. So the problem sometimes is that that's how teams felt back at the end of July, beginning of August. That's when they felt that feeling. Cincinnati got that a whole month later. So you're hoping as these next 2 weeks kind of go on that they hit a stride where they're out of training camp. They feel like they're the team they want to be. The problem is sometimes you start too far behind the 8 ball. And the good thing for them right now is Cleveland doesn't look that great. Baltimore looked good against Dallas because Baltimore's strength is Dallas's ultimate weakness. So that still is, a little bit on edge. Baltimore will go play Buffalo this week coming up. We'll get that game. So you'll get to see really where Baltimore is. But for Cincinnati, I just wonder, because I've been in the building sometimes where that urgency starts to settle, that starts to come in. And I think they will eventually go on a win streak and they'll start winning some ball games. But then it's like, every loss after that feels like the biggest loss because of the way you started. So you play a big game eventually against a Baltimore, or you get a Cleveland, like you play in those big games. And if you don't win, it's usually not that big of a deal. You just kind of say, all right, they got us that time. We'll see them again. But now when you start in a hole, it's like, now they have another game up on us. So they have to really be able to focus in on the next game and not continue to see the end result of what it's going to be down the road. And that's not easy to do.
One of the biggest problems, apart from the fact that you have 3 losses and no wins, what's your margin for error the rest of the way? How many losses disqualify you from the playoffs? And we're only in year 4 of the 17-game season, and there may not be 4 more years of it. But I remember when it was 16 games. Like, you get to 5 losses, you might have to run the table. The 2008 Patriots, 1 year before you got there, only lost 5 games and still didn't make it. Usually it's like there would be a 10-6 team that ends up on the outside when it was when it was 6 teams in the postseason. Now with 7, 10-7 is probably the minimum to have a chance to get in, but you're already 3 losses on the road to 7. You don't have the margin for error, and you start worrying about that. So I think that's the real problem for the Bengals. How many losses until they just can't even try to grab the last ticket to the party in the AFC and be the 7th seed facing the 2 seed on the road? They'd be very dangerous if they did it because of Joe Burrow.
That would be scary.
Yeah, but at the same time, they're getting closer and closer with each passing loss. By the way, the Patriots were last 0-3 in 2000, Bill Belichick's first season with the team. They finished 5-11. And I distinctly remember Mel Kiper, who made different news last week for entirely distinct take and unique and creative, definitely creative. There's a fine line between outside the box and just effing nutty, but still. I remember hearing him on ESPN radio on a weekend show in 2001 making the case that the Patriots that year would go 0-16 and that Bill Belichick would be unceremoniously fired. Of course, we know what happened in 2001 for the Patriots. Not quite 0-16, not quite 16-0, but Super Bowl champions. But that just shows you. That just shows you how. I mean, Belichick never got his teams in that spot because it is a challenge to dig out of it because every game is close and you can't expect to flip the coin and have it come up heads over and over and over again enough times to get you into the playoffs. And you're getting closer and closer to the point where you're just going to be done. Now, look, we'll all expect the Bengals to win on Sunday at Carolina, but they're gonna have to go prove it. It's road trip, short week. They're gonna have to do what the Eagles managed to do after an ugly home loss on Monday night. That's going to have a lot of questions, a lot of doubt. They got to get over that now, and they got to go on the road, and they got to reassert themselves for the external crowd and for the internal crowd so they can believe in themselves and build from there. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.